Hi everyone, and welcome to another instructional design micro lesson. In this lesson, we'll take a look at animation triggers in PowerPoint. So what are animation triggers? Basically, you're going to click on something, can be any object, either oval, rectangle, whatever you want, or text box, and it's going to result in displaying something, in making something exit, or emphasizing something. And those three things, by the way, are the animation effects that you can have inside of PowerPoint. So let's show how to do this, showing this slide of the Rhone Valley. There's a little text on the top describing the northern region, and on the bottom we have the southern region. And let's say that instead of all of these objects coming in at once, we want to click on one of the titles, let's say, to make the text appear on the right, both for the northern region and for the southern region. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm first going to start by looking at the animation ribbon and then selecting the animation pane. And you can see that all the objects inside of this particular slide, if I select a bunch of the different objects, you can see they all have animations. And so one of the objects is going to be the text box. Step number one to do an animation trigger, select the object that you want to display, and then basically define what you want to click on. So on the animation ribbon, trigger, on click of, and you're going to see all the different objects here. You can select any one that you want. In this case, I want to select the title Northern Region to display this text. And I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. Select what you want to have displayed and select which object is going to click your either learner or facilitator is going to click on to make this happen. So in this case, I'll select the title for the southern region. And now I have my two animation triggers over here on the animation pane. Let's take a look to see what it looks like. And notice when this slide displays, I don't have my text on the right, but if I move my cursor over here to the titles, it's the cursor objects has changed just a little bit. And when I click on it, I get my text to display. It's that simple. So what you're doing now is you're basically, if you're designing an e-learning lesson, you're basically designing it so that your learner has to do some sort of interactivity to display the information on that particular slide. Now, let's say that you want to do something a little fancier and you don't want to necessarily just have one animation for clicking on one object. Let's go ahead and we'll create a different object entirely, and we'll just do a little oval at the top perhaps. And you can put in information like click this or something like that. And what I want to do now is I don't want just this text to appear, but I want everything to appear. I want multiple things to happen when I click on this object. So I'll select multiple things, and then I'm going to come here again to my animation ribbon and basically select the things I want to have displayed, and then what am I going to click on? Well, this oval 3 must be the object, I guess, that I just drew, and we'll talk more about how to fix that in a second. And when I select that, notice I have two different things down here now. And I can add more if I want. So I can basically put the other text below it. And let's go ahead and take that southern title. I'm not sure why that southern title wound up there. And let's make sure that it's in decent sequence now so that I get the northern title show up first, the regional title show up next, and so on and so forth. And just to make sure, sometimes when you do the trigger, you get these redefined as click animations. So I want to make sure that they're all either with previous or after previous. So in this case, let's do after previous. And let's see what we've got. So I'll go into presentation mode again, and you can see nothing down here has displayed. But when I click on this button here, I get my northern region and southern region information to show up. Now, real quickly, when you're working with animation triggers, it is nice to be able to know which objects are which, because over here on the panel, sometimes the animation the objects just are not real clear in terms of what they are. So I think we saw this actually more when we went into doing the trigger animation, whoops, up here, and when I went on click of, and I can see I've got the oval 3. Well, oval 3 doesn't mean a lot if I've got 5 different ovals here, and that's what PowerPoint does. So if I draw a lot of different animations, sorry, a lot of different objects on a given slide, so I've got a rectangle here, and I'll have 3 of those, and then I'll have another couple of, let's do triangles, and I'll do 3 of those. So now when I go to select the information that I want to invoke a trigger with, I can select and look over here. And as I look over all these objects, you may have seen this before, but I get rectangle 5 and rectangle 12 and just random numbers. So there's an easy way to fix this. If you haven't discovered it before, off the home ribbon, go over here to the right-hand side and you select, and then the selection pane. Now in the selection pane, it basically shows you all of your different objects. And here for all those rectangles, you can make this, green box or something more significant. You can see I did all the different titles over here on the animation pane. You can see that I already made all those changes to make life a little bit easier when I was selecting the objects. But this selection pane here is actually very handy. And by the way, this is also the order or sequence for in front, in back, where the top part is basically the object on the very top, and then on the very bottom you have that. So you can actually shuffle that around also with the up and down arrow keys if you don't want to do move to front, move to back, and so on and so forth. So selection pane, very handy tool as well. Now, one more trick, and I want to show you a little bit more of a sophisticated trigger. I think you probably feel pretty comfortable with the triggers up until now, and if you do, you can stop this video. But if you want to see this one, I actually do enjoy this because this has a flashcard effect. If you click on all these objects in here, they will just spin around and display, and more than that, they'll actually go back and forth. And it's kind of a cute little effect if you're trying to do some sort of more sophisticated interaction for your audience. So what I'm going to do is I'll duplicate this slide to show you how this works. And now on this duplicated slide, I'm going to take out all the different animations. You can see I've got a lot of different triggers here. The trick is I'm going to have basically 2 triggers for each one of these objects. So within the triggers themselves, there's only 2 animations I'm going to use. The animation for the top thing is going to be telling it to go away, and then the one on the bottom is going to be telling it to come to the front. So let's show how this happens. So I want to basically do an exit animation for this thing on the top, right? So I'm going to select animation, come in here, more exit animations, and in this case I'm going to select collapse. You can see in the preview there, you can see the little behavior. Oops. And I'm going to click on OK. And now this one, the bottom one, I want to make appear on the top. And so what I'm going to select now is an entrance animation. And in this case, for the entrance animation, it's going to be a stretch. And again, in the preview, you can see that it's kind of stretching. Click on OK. And now if I didn't do a trigger on this, basically it would look something like this, where I'm going to do these after previous just so you can see. And if I go into presentation mode, that's the effect, right? And so now all I have to do is basically select that bottom object, because I want this one to appear when they click on the top object, right? And so I'm going to select trigger on click of, and I happen to know, again, I renamed these, that the one on the top is a title picture 1, and then the one on the bottom is going to be group 1. So I'm going to select picture 1 as the thing to click. And now I want to make sure that all those different animations are in the same trigger. So I'm going to click and drag that object into the trigger. So now I've got both of these actions inside the trigger, and I'm going to change those to both being after previous. And now let's see what happens. Click, and it comes in. Okay, so now what I haven't shown you, and I think you can do this on your own, is how to make that second trigger. So the second trigger, you're basically going to want to make the bottom object disappear, and I'm calling this one the bottom object, and then make the other one appear. So you would do basically the opposite of this trigger just by adding a new trigger. And that's it. Hope this was helpful for you, and see you at the next lesson.